Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And we are taking a look today at the Florida Panthers as we continue our season preview for the 2021-22 NHL season. So, let's take a look at some of the guys that left the Florida Panthers. Now, the list really isn't that big, which that's a good thing for the Florida Panthers. They lost Anton Strowman, who was traded out of Florida to the Arizona Coyotes, one of those cap dump deals that the Coyotes made to acquire draft picks. Keith Yandle was bought out. That was a pretty major move that they made. A guy that's a puck-moving defenseman, kind of a guy that's kind of the focal point on your defensive side of things on the power play. So they lose a guy like that in Yandle. And who they also lost in the expansion draft, which I have to find right now. Let's take a look. Of course, I can't find it now. All right. I keep forgetting to put these teams because I already forgot. It's been too long. Chris Drieger, of course. That's one of the big goaltenders there. So the good thing about losing Drieger in expansion was they have Spencer Knight. Spencer Knight played really well. He was actually the goaltender in the playoffs this year. So it wasn't that big of a loss for them. And like I said, they lost some defensive guys. Really not that big of a deal. And then you look at some of their additions. And this is where things get quite interesting for the Florida Panthers. They bring in Zach Delp, a guy from Carolina. He played in Minnesota for a little while. He's a depth guy, a depth center. Sam Reinhart, who they acquired in a trade with the Buffalo Sabres. A good move there. They did lose Devin Levi, the goaltender, as well as some draft picks. But Sam Reinhart has since signed, so good stuff there for the Panthers, and to a nice contract as well. Marcus Nudivar, who they picked up from Columbus in free agency. He left the Blue Jackets this summer, and they decided to sign him, so good stuff there. Getting in Marcus Nudivar. Going to add a little bit of depth to that blue line. Speaking of adding depth to that blue line, they lost guys like Strowman and Yandle. They replaced them with Nudivar and Radko Gudas, who just stepped down the road from the Tampa Bay Lightning, who he has been a part of the Tampa Bay Lightning in the past, and now he stays down the road in the Sunshine State with the Florida Panthers. So, interesting move there. And then they added depth in between the pipes behind Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight. They add Chris Gibson, who has been with the New York Islanders, probably the best goaltender in Bridgeport Sound Tigers history. Now that they're the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, the Bridgeport Islanders, he's the best goaltender ever in Bridgeport Sound Tigers history. So, with whatever that means, he's a good third goaltender for the Panthers, and a guy that may be relied upon if Bobrovsky or if Spencer Knight struggles out of the gate. Remember, this is Spencer Knight's first full season in the NHL, so it's going to be a little bit of a grind and a little bit of a feeling out process for him. And Bobrovsky hasn't been himself since he's joined the Florida Panthers, so they got to figure out a little bit of depth in between the pipes. This isn't a bad move, in my opinion, and definitely adds to that very good group that they have. And they'll probably run a 3-goalie system this year, kind of like they did last year with Drieger, Knight, and Bobrovsky at points. Probably won't be too far off from that. Now, looking at the top point producers, Jonathan Huberdeau led the team in points, 61 points last season. Alexander Barkov right behind with 58. And then you see a little bit of a drop-off. Carter Verhaeghe, 36 points. He's playing with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, another Sound Tigers guy, and I'll just let him walk away, and now he's a 40-point goal scorer. Carter Verhaeghe, 36 points last year. Mackenzie Wieger, the top defenseman in terms of points last year for the Florida Panthers. Mackenzie Wieger, 36 points, just as many as Carter Verhaeghe. It took a dozen more games to get there, but Mackenzie Wieger definitely showed last year that he can be at the very least, a top 4 defenseman, probably a top pairing defenseman alongside Aaron Ekblad. So, Mackenzie Wieger, a guy that we really weren't sure what he was, kind of maybe a third pairing defenseman, has now become a really solid defenseman this year. Now, was it a one-off thing, or does he become like an Adam Pelech-X guy like the New York Islanders have? So, Mackenzie Wieger, really nice season for him, and hopefully he keeps that up. Patrick Hornquist, 32 points. Duclair, Wenberg, Yandle, Vatrano, Ekblad. All those guys round out the list. But in terms of scoring, they're going to rely a lot more on guys like Verhaeghe, guys like Duclair, who they just re-signed. They're going to rely on the young guys, too. Owen Tippett's going to have to come in, add a little bit of offense. That's kind of what you're hoping here from the Florida Panthers. And I just want to mention before you guys go crazy, Marcus Nudivar was on the Panthers last season, so he's not technically an addition. And Ryan Lomberg, of course, who was always in the comment section. I had to give a shout out to Ryan Lomberg. 4 points last season, the Florida Panthers All-Star. Absolutely. All right, and then we're taking a look at where they sit salary-wise, because they're one of those teams that was very active this summer, which does in turn mean they don't have much cap space. $1.3 million in cap space. They're actually over the roster size right now. They're at 25 active players or contracts on the roster, which means we are going to see some moves. Now, the limit you can have is 23, so 2 guys are going to have to come off, whether they make a trade or what I'm assuming is going to be guys being placed on the LTI and will never even know they were there. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here, and that's kind of the situation with that. But other than that, the Florida Panthers, one of those teams that's gained a lot of attention this summer. They've gained a lot of traction because of some of the moves, like bringing in Sam Reinhart and the emergence of guys like Carter Verhaeghe and Marcus Nudivar, as well as really Mackenzie Wieger kind of coming out of nowhere. And despite the issues that they've been having with Aaron Ekblad and injuries recently, it hasn't hurt them that much because we've seen a guy like Wieger come up and really start to, solidify himself as a top pairing defenseman in Florida. So now the big question: do the Florida Panthers make the playoffs in the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs? And I have the Panthers making the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think them and the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm pretty confident with those 2 Florida teams getting into the postseason. With that said, everybody else, Toronto Maple Leafs, the Boston Bruins, you could argue other teams like the Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens, they just came off a Stanley Cup final appearance. There are so many teams, but I think the Florida Panthers have done enough where they can be back where they were this season and maybe go on a deeper playoff run. The only issue is they realize they have to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. If it's not the first round, it's going to be the second round. And if it's not the second round, it's going to be the third round because Tampa is that good. We know they're our team that is going to be a problem in the Stanley Cup playoffs next year. Despite losing some depth guys, they are the team to beat in that division. And the Florida Panthers trying to add a little bit of artillery to their lineup, and I think that they did that. I think they get into the postseason, and we'll see what happens from now till the trade deadline. Maybe they add more, and for all we know, maybe they win the Stanley Cup next year. Not to mention, they also added Joe Thornton. I did want to mention that as a depth signing, kind of showing they are cup chasing, and some people may look at that as a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. The window is now. You have guys like Barkov and Huberdeau on really nice contracts, and this is the chance for the Florida Panthers to finally bring that Stanley Cup down to the Sunrise State. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Florida Panthers? Do they get into the Stanley Cup playoffs next season? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.